Good afternoon, everyone. This is Ekta Sehgal Malhotra, founder, Motherhood Club. What is it that I want to talk to you all about today? I want to talk to you all about something which is absolutely imperative for each one of us to have and utilize. The two C's that play a very important role in our life. The two C's, courage and communication. You need to have the courage to communicate that you wish to. बहुत सारी औरतें ऐसी हैं, लेडीज, बच्चे भी और आदमी भी, जो बहुत कुछ बोलना चाहते हैं पर बोल नहीं पाते क्योंकि उनमें हिम्मत नहीं होती है। तो जब कुछ बोलना है तो बिल्कुल हिम्मत रखिए कि आप उसके बारे में बात कर सकें। कई साल पहले मैं एक अपनी दोस्त को जानती थी जो बहुत स्मार्ट, बहुत टैलेंटेड और बहुत अच्छा कर रही थी अपनी लाइफ में। पर फिर कुछ ऐसा हुआ कि सब बदला। कुछ बुरा हुआ, बट बहुत कुछ अच्छा भी हुआ। और वो अच्छा इसलिए हुआ क्योंकि उन्होंने ये दोस्ती पे वर्क किया, which is courage and communication. वो कौन है, आइए जानते हैं और फिर हम उनसे बहुत सारी बातें करेंगे।
I have had the privilege at the United Nations to listen to many people, world leaders, but very few people.
All of us have the power to be our own destiny creators. The question is, do you have the courage?
I have had the privilege at the United Nations to listen to many people, world leaders, but very few people, very few people have moved me the way she has.
Such is the powerful impact Ruchi has on her audience.
I was deeply impressed. I hear a lot of speakers in my profession. She's an incredibly powerful speaker. She shows great courage.
And something changes. Something changes within us when we face violence. We can never go back to being who we were before it happened.
She gave a testimony at the United Nations where everyone was in awe.
Like I had said, violence changes something deep within us. But what that change will be is our decision.
She was an outstanding speaker. It's cliche to say that I laughed and I cried, but it's true.
If I was God, believe me, I'll be so busy suing so many people for defamation.
Ruchi is a fantastic storyteller and a master of communication.
Use the power of your voice to amaze, inspire, and transform this world. For communication is not a soft skill. It is a power skill.
And every great communicator uses these pillars to persuade and lead. It is EPL, not English Premier League. Ethos, pathos, lepos.
However, it is her incredible story of courage and leadership shown during extreme circumstances which make her keynotes extremely inspiring.
We human beings have resounding power within us to recreate and transform our life. The moment you take responsibility of your life or the situation you are in, you move from a place of weakness to a position of strength.
As an award-winning HR leader, Ruchi brings immense knowledge to the stage.
Redefine what success means to you, and you do not have to play by someone else's rules. You have the choice of creating your own rules and play to your strengths.
Courageous leadership is at the heart of everything Ruchi does. She brings this to her talk show, Ruchi Singh Talks, to where she provides a safe platform to have uncomfortable but important discussions.
And she not only inspired us, she gave us some techniques.
And breathe out. 2 more to go. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. Relax.
Ruchi has the rare quality which all great speakers have. She touches the heart and convinces the mind of her audience to believe in her message.
My main motivation to come here was Ruchi Singh. She's been a great inspiration.
Whether it is her keynotes, talk show, mentoring sessions, book or interviews, Ruchi leaves the audience with a powerful experience which empowers them to live an inspired life, influence people with their ideas and create an impact in this world.
She got a standing ovation. 450 young people stood up from all over the world.
I want you to choose courage, because when you choose courage, it will get you out of hell. It will take you to magical places you have never even imagined. And most importantly, it will make you connect with the real you. You are your own destiny creator.
A very warm welcome, Ruchi, to our talk show, Motherhood Club. It is indeed a privilege to have you. And with us, not on the screen, but otherwise, we have Ms. Ila Dwivedi, who is the chief advisor and the president for Motherhood Club. Ruchi, we saw you in action. And I was sharing with our audience that a bubbly girl like you, who was doing so well, and something happened. Things changed and changed for the worst. And then something happened within that things changed to put you where you are today, to make you who you are today. And ladies and gentlemen, that was courage and communication that Ruchi Singh is here talking to us and talking to people all over the world. She is in the business of giving courage. She is in the business of making each one of us courageous with the power that we have within us called communication. So very warm welcome, Ruchi. So, we want to know all about you. Why courage and communication, and why do you say that you're in the business of courage and communication?
First of all, Ekta, thank you so much for having me. And like you mentioned, we are friends. So a very big hello to your audience, and thank you to the president of the club for having me as well. And it is such a pleasure. It is such a pleasure to be talking to a friend, right? And like I tell people, very few people know me who have seen me very young and slimmer. So Ekta is one of those people. So thank you so much for having me. And your question was, why do I say I am in the business of courage, right? Or do you want me to share a little bit about my journey as well?
First, let's hear a little bit about your journey, and would then perhaps be able to correlate that why courage and communication.
All right, so that makes sense. So in life, all of us have ups and downs, and life is made up of millions of moments, right? And there comes a moment which defines the rest of our life. What we do in that particular moment will decide the course of our life for the rest of our life. And I had that moment one night when my husband, now my ex, he came home drunk and he put a knife to my throat, threatening to kill me. And I don't have to say that it was a very, very traumatic experience for me. And at that particular time, of course, I could do nothing, just to stand still. However, once the shock wore off, I had certain questions within me. And this was a culmination, this incident was a culmination of few years of incidences. Right. So these questions were within me for some time, but then it popped up and I was very furious. And I was furious with myself. I asked myself, I said, Ruchi Singh, have you actually taken birth just to be a statistic of domestic violence?
because I don't want to be on show where, like on news, where they say, hey, this lady was murdered or whatever. I said, this is not the purpose. This is not what I've taken birth for. And when I asked myself this question, my answer was no. And then the second question was, when we face death, it actually facing death can actually cut through a lot of clutter in your mind. Although I don't suggest you try that out, it can be fatal. So, but when I faced death, I had again a question. It was like, what if I had died that night? I would have made it to news. I'm almost sure, because this happened in Sydney, and it would have made it to some news. However, like I said earlier, also, that's not the purpose of life. So I wanted to know how, now that I have been given a second chance at life, how do I add value to my life? And that thinking got me the answer that if we want to add value to our life, we have to add value to other people's life. That's the only way.
Beautifully said. Yes.
And I had an option. I could have gone back to my corporate role. However, I said no. I want to talk about this. Someone has to talk about it. And if everyone waits for someone else to take a stand or talk about it, then who is going to talk about it? So I said no. I would talk about it. And like it happens whenever you try to do something different, which is a break from the normal, there'll be people who have never stood by you, never cared, but suddenly they'll become your best wishers, and they'll put all these doubts in your mind, and they're like, think about it. What will happen when you talk about such a topic? People will like to stay away from you, and then they counsel. My parents also, no, don't let your daughter do this. It happens with almost everyone, and I'm very blessed that my parents are very supportive. So they supported me, and I heard them, and that made my resolution stronger. That it is my story, and it is not my story alone. If it was my story, then it would not have been that important for me to share it. But my story, unfortunately, is story of millions of women, children, and also some men all over the world. So my story is part of a bigger story. Domestic violence is one of the biggest humanitarian crises we are facing right now, and this epidemic has actually made it into a shadow epidemic. Anyway, so I took the advice, and then I got on the stage, and in front of 500 people, I shared my story. And I was, of course, nervous and scared. You feel very vulnerable. You know, it is very nice if I was invited to give a talk where if I had won something, you're on a high, right? But if you are standing in front of 500 strangers and you are talking about a very painful part of your life, which you'll rather not share with the world, and I am a private person, you feel actually emotionally naked, because when you are sharing your story, it is not just a story, it is part of your life. You're reliving the trauma. However, you never know how the audience is going to react to it. So that, and since that was my first talk, so of course I was more nervous, more scared. And I'm human enough to be nervous. You know, what if something which is so painful to me, what if people just laugh about it? So things like that. And once I finished that speech, and I could see the audience, you know, they went absolutely like pin drop silence. And I could see the reaction in the eyes of the people. And once I finished the talk, people were waiting for me. And so many people said, hey, you know what? My sister is facing this. A guy said, you know what? I'm so glad you shared it, because I have seen my mom go through it. Things like that. And I realized my story was so important for others to at least feel that there's someone who has gone through it, and it is not unique. If it is you, if you are suffering, then there are so many others who are facing that. So yes, and I also wanted to raise another important point that is called victim bashing. What happens is whenever someone goes through it, especially through domestic violence or a lady gets raped, things like that, right? People turn around and ask that person, "What did you do? Why were you out at night driving? Why were you wearing a mini skirt?" What you are doing is you're actually inflicting more violence on the victim, because violence is not just physical, it is psychological and emotional too. And I faced my own fair share of victim bashing, where so-called very emancipated women back in Sydney, when I shared what had happened, and it took so much out of me to speak out to someone, because, like I said, when you go through something, there's also a feeling of shame, humiliation for no fault of yours, but you do feel that. And one lady actually turned around and she asked me, and it was a lady, not a guy. She said, "But Ruchi, what did you do?" Can you imagine? Is there any situation where violence is okay? And not just women. When I stand against violence, I stand for everyone. So if a man is going through it, I will stand behind him as well, because I'm against domestic violence or violence. And anyone who goes through it, anyone who's a victim, will have my support. So yeah, that's my journey, that's how it started.
But
And
Ruchi, I want
yes.
to ask you here. I mean, I'm a little, what do I say? At lack of words. Ladies and gentlemen, before I ask what I want to ask Ruchi, I have known Ruchi for pretty much 22 years.
Yes.
I won't say that I was in constant touch with her for 22 years, but I have known her for 22 years. And she was with me in college in our post grad, and a very, very quiet and introvert person, as she also said that she's a very closed and a very private person, and exactly how she was. But when I heard her for the first time, I couldn't believe that this is the same Ruchi who I knew so many years back in college, who perhaps would, during the breaks would not engage with any one of us, sit, or perhaps go to the library, or, just be with her own self. And here I saw her talking to 500 people. And for all of you to know this, that at the UN, which a forum that she addressed, she got a standing ovation for what she shared. Not because she shared her own journey, but she motivated many. And Ruchi, what you said about the domestic violence or the abuse and the victim bashing, and about not just physical abuse but emotional and mental. Not very old, but very recently, I was in a session where there were about 25 speakers world over, and of which there were more women, and at least three of them shared their part of the story, that how they were ill treated. And when I heard them, of course I had goosebumps, because one cannot even imagine anyone going through this. But what really shook me at that time was that this is not restricted to India or Indians. This is world over. And it is so unfortunate that being in the 21st century, we still hear these not stories but real instances. And it compelled me to pour my heart in the form of a poetry. That are we so weak? When you went through that whole thing, Ruchi, right? You obviously took a stand and you walked out. That was courage being demonstrated. But how did you get that courage?
All right. So One thing is that even though I was quiet and I didn't mingle much, because yes, I was mostly in library. I love reading, or we were preparing for case studies and all, right. But otherwise, you would remember I was pretty confident. Like, I got Coca-Cola as an internship, and getting marketing internship in Coca-Cola needs you to be able to express yourself. Or I did get 0 day campus placement, right? So things like that. So I was always able to express myself, and I had the comfort zone of going for what I want. Yes. However, I did lose it when I was in that particular relationship. What happens is, and like you rightly said, domestic violence is not limited to any race, religion, gender, culture. It cuts across all these things. I get messages, or people reach out to me who are working in New York, who are white, and who are like at VP level. There's a reason why I share these, because you would not think that someone who's vice president in a big company working in New York, and who is different race, would face the same problem. But they are not speaking out. They're reaching out to me in private, right? So it is a very big issue, and one of the reasons why people take it is because it plays with your psyche. It is not a normal situation. Most of us come from safe homes. So when it initially starts, a lot of times it does not keep happening. It will happen and you take a stand, and the person will be very repentant. They'll cry, they'll beg you, they'll promise everything, and you stay back because you feel, maybe once in a blue moon, ho gaya hoga, let me give a chance, right? Then again, it'll be hunky dory for some time, again it will happen, and the same sequence. And slowly it, what it does is, it starts chipping away your confidence, because abuse is not just physical, it is verbal also. You're not good enough, you are fat, you are ugly, if you leave me, who will even look at you? I've faced all that. Like never wear sleeveless clothes because your hands are fat. And it's somewhere you start believing it. You like something as simple as wearing a sleeveless dress, you think, oh my god. So all that happens. So I did lose it for some time. I was worried and I was hopeful, both together. However, I am a deeply spiritual person. When I was going through this, one thing I was very careful of, that I wanted to not have a breakdown. Not like that then I would have lost totally. So I was doing pranayama, I was doing meditation daily. Listening to it, may a lot of people may feel, then how do you get courage out of something like that? But spirituality gives you a lot of courage. And pranayama, meditation, they are very scientific. Just to tell you, every breath, every emotion has a corresponding breath pattern to it. Luckily, I have been doing it for years and years, so I already had this knowledge, and that helped me. So whenever I used to feel I'm getting too panicky, and or I'm getting too, like I'm crying a lot, things like that, or I'm just losing any confidence, so I used to then take a step back and do my pranayama, my breathing, and change my breath pattern. It is not easy to say, hey Ruchi, don't panic. But what if I say, I am panicking, I acknowledge that, so I'm not trying to be unnecessarily positive mindset. I'm acknowledging I'm in pain, but I'm saying I can't let that emotion take over me. So I will do maybe Bhastrika Pranayam, which will energize me. So I was constantly these 5 years doing all that. And I was meditating a lot. So obviously, I was not going deep into meditation, but just listening to that soothing knowledge. And I kept myself busy through all these things, and that helped me, that kept me going, that kept my mental health okay. And I
That is
think that
very important.
was easy for me to, once I decided to take that step and move away, it was comparatively easier for me to restart my life. Having said that, I want to make one thing very clear, because I do not want to come across as a superwoman, right? A lot of people would be facing that, and I want to let you know it is tough. It is tough. Even now, there are things, something can trigger my like I get triggered about certain things. Sometimes I don't even know, but I do get triggered. So it is okay, but have faith. Take it from me that if you take that step and move away, you have a better and a happier life waiting for you. So I think spirituality was the biggest thing which gave me courage.
Absolutely, absolutely. And, like we have Monica Goeldevan saying that inner courage is the most important thing, right? Until and unless something, wakens up inside you, awaken, your own courage, your own will to do something, to achieve something has to be awakened. And I feel that, Ruchi, having heard you and having known you,
Yes.
that awakening can only happen by you yourself.
Yes.
No matter how much someone may tell you, how much ever, sessions and conversations you may attend. So the communication from the other side may happen, but perhaps that courage and that inner communication, unless that happens, nothing is going to really change.
No. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. We we can only There's only one person in your life who can actually make a difference, and that is you. But yes, you do need a whole lot of people to support you. Like, I have a very supportive family, my parents, my sister, my brother. I have you guys. Like, you guys are my biggest cheerleaders, and so many people and so many amazing men and women who didn't know me, but they have supported me. So you do need that emotional support, so you don't have to do it alone. And you'll be surprised, once you reach out and ask for help, this world has some not so good people, but this world is majority made up of good people, and people will try and help you. But to take that step, it is still on you. So I totally agree with
Absolutely.
you.
Beautifully said. At this juncture, let me thank everyone who has joined us, and let me read out a few comments for you, Ruchi. I'm going to start from the beginning. So Ela is saying that absolutely domestic violence is kept under wraps, and one needs courage, and she's applauding you for that courage that you showed to walk out of that marriage where you were being, tortured emotionally, physically, mentally. And if something happens in your life which totally changes you, and the change which is not a positive change, one needs to really take a step back and start thinking, what is it that I am doing? That is perhaps your trigger point where you need to start introspecting that, is there something that I need to do about it? Why am I willing to accept something which does not resonate with me? After all, you have a purpose, as Ruchi said in the beginning, that there is a bigger purpose in life that each one of us comes forward. If you could add in addition to the two C's that we are talking about, the courage and the communication, the spirituality aspect, every religion talks about that. What is your purpose of being here on planet Earth? A predefined purpose, which perhaps we need to really, dig deep into to understand what it is. Poonam Saxena, is saying that it's very heart touching to hear what you are sharing.
Thank you.
We have Arusu, fabulous, well said. Inner transformation plays a great role, is what Poonam is saying. Ela is saying that your smile is so positive and you're cool and calm. And that's exactly how this beautiful girl was when she was with us in college. Always had that smile, very cool, calm, and collected. So, Ruchi, courage and communication, right? Two words, we all understand the meaning of it theoretically, right? But when it comes to implementation, most of us run away.
Yes.
There is a fear that is lingering on our head to take that step of courage. And once we take that step of courage, how do we communicate that to either the concerned person or to our loved one, because any and every decision that we take in life, and especially as tough a decision as you had to take, few years back, our families, our extended families, we ourselves get impacted. So, how does one work on courage in communication?
Okay, one important thing which helps with courage or with leadership is taking ownership of your life, taking responsibility for yourself and your life. Now, when I say I took responsibility for my life, what I'm trying to say here is I'm not saying that I was responsible for the situation I was in, or the violence which was being inflicted on me. No, that I was not responsible for. However, how I was responding to it was very much my responsibility, my call. So, the moment what happens is when we take responsibility for our life or any situation, and it could be personal or it could be work related, it it immediately changes your position. You're feeling weak at that moment because it's totally on the other person. But the moment you say, hey, it is my responsibility, I'm going to take charge of my life, you move to a position of strength, and that is a very important leadership skill, right? You have to have responsibility, and that also goes a very long way in giving you courage, because you're saying I am responsible for my life, so now I have to take calls which are in the best interest of me and the world at large. And on courage, I'll just say one more thing. Everything can be worked on, right? And courage will come from within. It is inner. Nobody can just put courage within you. It comes from within. However, what you have to try is, when I'm mentoring people, I always tell them, and this goes for communication also, if it is an issue, communication or courage, always take tiny steps, which I call low stake moments. Now, low stake moment would be, say, for courage. It took courage for me to get up on the stage in front of 500 people, which had media also, and share my story, right? So, I'm not saying that you do that. However, start taking small steps where it will be easy for you. Suppose I'll give you a very real example, which happens with most of us. There are three people, right? And me, Ekta, and say another friend, and I'm constantly bad mouthing a fourth person who's not there, but she or he happens to be a common friend. So I'm constantly, oh, that person, it did this. Oh my God, did you see? So I'm bad mouthing with a negative intention, right? Now, it usually, even if you're feeling bad, Ruchi shouldn't be saying this about the other person. You will not say anything. You will not say anything to me because you're like, let it be. You don't want yourself to be in an awkward position. You do not want to have that tiny confrontation with me, right? That's a situation which everyone has faced. Every single one who's listening to me has faced. Now,
Absolutely.
it's a low stake moment. If that time Ekta says, you know what, Ruchi, let's change the topic. The ABC, she is my good friend, and I do not like you bad mouthing her. Just one sentence, but just to utter those sentences will take a lot of courage to utter that. But if you do that once, next time it'll be easier. And slowly, slowly, you will start taking bigger decisions which have bigger impact on your life. So this is how, when I'm mentoring people, I tell them one of the ways to work on courage is this. Ekta, what was your question on communication? I'm so sorry.
How do I build my courage in communication?
Okay, so courage.
So I feel courage, you said, right? But
Yes.
I gathered the courage to say it. But again, communication is something, a lot of us really fail because what we want to convey, the other person may not understand. And what the other person is trying to say, we may not understand. So, communication is not just about what you say, but it's also about what the other person is wanting to convey. That is one. And today, more so in the times of digitization and so many other things that are happening, when you talk to somebody, you understand what the person is saying. But we've all moved to a very impersonal way of communicating. And we are all a victim of it, right? Whether we receive it or we give it, we do that. So how do you effectively communicate what you wish to?
All right. So that's right up my alley because I'm a communication mentor. Communication is an art, but it is also a science. Communication is actually very technical. So I do take sessions and I mentor people. So a lot of times people think communication means speaking fluently. Communication is not that. Communication, effective communication, as Ekta rightly said, is putting your idea, your cause, or your pitch, whatever you want, sharing that idea persuasively with your audience. Now, that audience could be 1,000 or one person. When I say persuasively, that is a key word here. Because if I have an idea, that courage and communication is very important to be a leader in life. I need to persuade you to believe in me. That is effective communication so that I get you to do what I want you to do. Communication can be negative or positive. We have very brilliant communicators like Hitler, brilliant communicator, like one of the best orators in the history, right? So he was doing everything right as far as communication goes, as far as influencing the history of world goes. So communication is like a double-edged sword. However, effective communication means that I should be able to convince Ekta to do what I want to do, right? Now, there are certain things which I'll share because every single topic is a vast topic in itself. So there are certain things like ethos, pathos, logos. You would have heard that in my speaker reel also, EPL. Now, when Ekta played that reel, after that, whoever has watched that reel would take my word on communication. If I say something about communication, they are more likely to believe me. Why? Because I have some credibility now that, okay, this person, she's an international keynote speaker. She spoke at the United Nations. And like Ekta very sweetly mentioned, I got a standing ovation for it, right? So what it is doing is it is creating a credibility for me as a communication mentor. You need credibility. Whatever topic you're going to talk about, you need to be credible. You need to have some authority over that for people to listen to you and take what you're saying seriously. Ethos. Now, logos. Logos means backing it up with data. There's actually proper research which shows a lot of research, but I'll quote just one research that there was a research done by, I think, McKinsey, but some properly recognized research organization, and they researched 400 HR professionals world over, and out of that, 94% is a huge number of HR professionals said that having effective communication skill is an important criteria for people to get promoted or go to that leadership level once the basic skill set is in place. So now what I'm doing is I'm saying, okay, communication is important, but I'm saying don't take my word for it. I am a speaker, but I'm not saying just trust me. I'm actually giving you data now. I'm backing what I'm saying with data. So that is called logos. Now, pathos is when I hook you. In a way, my speaker reel is a hook. You want chances of you being more interested in me is once you see that speaker reel, you're like, she's been doing some stuff. And let me know more about her. So what you've done is you've caught the attention of your audience. That is called a hook. These things are used in any kind of communication. Don't think that it is just motivational speaking or whatever. Every business communication uses these tools and techniques, right? Every good company's mission statement would be very clear, concise, to the point. It'll be giving benefit to the audience and customer. So these are the things which go into effective communication. Now there are other things like once you get this in place, you also have to have interest, real interest in your topic to sustain it long time. Now, for me, I'm very passionate about certain things like creating awareness in domestic violence, or teaching people, mentoring people on communication. However, if someone asks me to do a talk on big data, I have all the skill sets as a speaker. However, I'll not be able to do justice to it because I do not have any knowledge on it and I do not have any interest on it. Even though I can Google and these are my skill sets, so I can create a fairly decent presentation, but it will come across to the audience that something is missing. So you have to be very interested in your topic to sustain it long time. And when I'm saying these things, don't think that okay, I don't want to be a speaker, so why should I care? Every time you go and ask for promotion, or every time you keep quiet when you have to speak up in your office, you're missing a chance to do effective communication. So effective communication, or like someone asks you a question in a meeting, impromptu question, you have to handle that. All these are communication. And for you to succeed in life, you need to have all these skill sets to be able to perform that time. Then there are other things like body language. Now, if I'm talking to you and if I'm talking like this, yeah, yeah, oh yeah, I did that, and you know what? Then I got on the stage and gave the topic. Now, are you interested? No. You are actually not going to like me much. My body language is totally negative, closed, and you can understand, even though I may be saying the same things, that she's not interested. She doesn't care. Like Ruchi doesn't care what Ekta's audience feels like. So body language, I am engaged. Again, these things can't be faked. If you fake it, after a while, the audience is very intelligent. They are going to make it. Then delivery. If you talk in a monologue, hi Ekta, I'm so happy to be here. I'm so, yes, I remember we were good friends back in college, and then this happened to me, and then I decided I have to ask these two questions. What is happening? The same story. You will be put to sleep, and it happens, especially when I was in college. There are times I used to sleep like with my eyes open, but I'm sleeping. I don't know what's happening. So these are the things which go in the background. And there are a lot more technicalities which I'll not get into here. And then one of the key points of powerful communication is effective listening. If you do not listen to your audience, what they're trying to tell you, then you are going to miss out on a lot of important cues like the body language. How are they saying yes or they're saying yeah, yeah? There's a difference. Things like that. And whenever you do not effectively listen, businesses, they lose out on billions of dollars. Like when Nokia does not listen to the market, that the market is slowly moving towards smartphones, they were the market leaders, their products were top class. They lose that complete segment, they lose the complete like billions of dollars. What has happened? They have not done effective listening. So and one very important point: storytelling. Storytelling. You have to be a good storyteller. Now, storytelling is again very technical. I'll not get into that. But when I say storytelling, so doesn't mean that if Ekta is asking about Ruchi, can you talk about communication? I'm like, you know what, Ekta, that movie, did you see? Oh my God. And it can be a very interesting story. But you're thinking, I'm talking to her about communication. What is she doing? So you again losing your audience. You have to have relevant stories which has to be streamlined to the audience you're catering to. right? So all these things go into making are parts of effective communication, and then you have to rehearse. Especially if you're giving a speech, you have to rehearse. Those professional speakers, they never do it impromptu. We rehearse like mad. We know it in sleep. I would know my speech, and then I can use a teleprompter. It's not a crime to use teleprompter, but you have to know your speech so well that you don't really need anything.
True.
So yeah, these are the things I can share off the cuff.
So there's a question that has come up from Monica, that should effective communication be persuasive or influencing? And there is a slight difference between the two words.
Yes,
Persuasive or influence?
see, it has to be both persuasive and influensive, and there is a difference because when you're influencing people, sometimes if you're very savvy, you can convince them without it may not be in their best interest, right? And you're actually not taking permission from them. It all happens very subtly. Communication happens on a very subtle level. But I get you, I influence Ekta to act a certain way. And throughout history, when we look at dictators and all, a lot of time they have influenced a very vast majority to act in a certain way, where left to their own devices they will never do that. That is called influencing. It's a very big umbrella word. Under that comes persuasion. Persuasion is different. I will take your permission. I want to convince you I'm making the effort, and I'm not using anything sly, nothing underhand, not using any techniques, but I want to persuade you that if you communicate effectively, it will actually help you grow professionally, and it will also help you in the personal life. So that's the difference.
Absolutely.
And
Monica is an HR professional, and she also said the same thing, that communication is the key to your growth. But Ruchi, I want to ask you one question over here. We've understood from you very in too much of detail. What exactly is effective communication? How should we do it? What are the do's and don'ts? And how you need to pay attention to your body language. What is it that you're communicating? The command over the subject. You just can't come and just start talking just because you can talk, right? I mean, we all can talk, but one has to make sense of what one is talking. But I'm just now going to correlate courage and communication over here. And I'm going to ask this question particularly in Hindi. जब हम प्रोफेशनल लाइफ में होते हैं तो हम कम्युनिकेट करते हैं, क्योंकि हमें पता है कि हमारे ऑफिस में वो काम हमारा नहीं होगा अगर हम बात नहीं करेंगे, राइट? और फिर जब हमें कोई डिस्ट्रेस होता है, किसी चीज की परेशानी होती है, तो हम उसके बारे में बात करते हैं, हम बहुत वोकल होते हैं। लेकिन जब हमें कोई पर्सनल इश्यूज होते हैं तो कई लोग ऐसे होते हैं जो अलग तरीके से मैसेजेस कन्वे करना चाहते हैं, ठीक है, क्योंकि उनमें वो करेज नहीं होता, वो कम्युनिकेशन नहीं होता। तो आप प्रोफेशनली भी लोगों को गाइड करती हैं, और आपकी जो स्टोरी है वो पर्सनली भी लोगों को इंस्पायर करती है कि हिम्मत रखना और बात करना बहुत जरूरी है, राइट? तो हमारे प्लेटफॉर्म में कई मदर्स हैं जो प्रोफेशनल्स भी हैं, होम मेकर्स भी हैं और एंटरप्रेन्योर्स भी हैं। हम अपनी जिंदगी में जो एक रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी की आपने बात की, वो रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी हम तभी ले पाएंगे जब हमें अपने ऊपर विश्वास होगा और हमारे में हिम्मत होगी, तो वहां आता है करेज। लेकिन हमें जब उस चीज को कम्युनिकेट करना है अपने फैमिली मेंबर्स को, अपने बच्चों को, अपने स्पाउस को, उसके बारे में अगर आप कुछ बता पाओ पर्सनल लेवल पे, हम उसे कैसे कर सकते हैं? क्योंकि बहुत लोग ऐसे होते हैं जिनकी आदत होती है कि हर चीज को वो अच्छा चलो ठीक है बाद में कर लेंगे, यू प्रोक्रेस्टिनेट। So I'll do it later. Maybe it's not reached that point where you start drowning कि आप डूबने लगे हो। तो उस सिचुएशन में आपका what is it that you would like to communicate, because आप उस दौर से गुजरी हैं।
All right, it's a very nice question. मैं भी हिंदी में कोशिश करूंगी, बट समटाइम्स आई जस्ट मे स्पीक इन इंग्लिश। ऑल्दो मुझे हिंदी बहुत अच्छे से आती है, ऐसा नहीं है, हिंदी मेरी मातृभाषा है, बट फिर भी इट see, one thing first of all about courage is this: courage is not convenience. कि आज कन्वीनियंट है तो मैं करेजियस हूँ, कल कन्वीनियंट नहीं है तो नो, देन यू जस्ट बीइंग, तब हम मौके का फायदा उठा रहे हैं। दैट इज नॉट करेज। करेज इज कि सही अगर है तो आई विल से समथिंग, एंड वो हर बार जरूरी नहीं है कि हम मोर्चा ही निकालें। लाइक यू सेड, घर में बहुत छोटे छोटे इश्यूज होते हैं। फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल आपको खुद से बहुत क्लियर होना पड़ेगा। सेट योर बाउंड्रीज। ठीक है, आप घर में हैं, स्पेशली फॉर विमेन, उन पे बहुत ज्यादा एक्सपेक्टेशंस होते हैं। The society is like that, and unfortunately it is almost the world over. But किसी सोसाइटी में ज्यादा है, the degrees vary. So now it is again up to you. You have to set the boundaries. चाहे आप घर में हैं या बाहर हैं, क्योंकि आप देखेंगे कि सेम उसमें एक इंसान से लोग अलग तरीके से ट्रीट करते हैं। घर में होता है ना, अगर कोई बहुत बोलता है, क्या बोलते, छोड़ना यार, ये इसको दे देते हैं ना, ये बहुत बोलेगी, और दूसरा ठीक है यार तुम एडजस्ट कर लो। सेम फैमिली, सेम पीपल, व्हाट हैज हैपेंड इज बोथ पीपल, उन्होंने अपना एक्सपेक्टेशन सेट कर दिया है कि ये वाला व्यवहार अगर मेरे साथ हुआ तो आई विल, I'm okay with it. I'll not say anything. So first, it is a very important thing for everyone, whether you're in office or you're at home. आपको अपना expectation set करना पड़ेगा, because the world will treat you the way you treat yourself. आप अपने को जैसे भी ट्रीट करते हैं ना, पूरी दुनिया आपको वैसे ट्रीट करेगी। थोड़ा ऊपर नीचे होगा, मुश्किल होगा, बट पीपल विल ट्रीट यू। अगर मैं बहुत बेचारी बन के रोती रहूंगी ना, तो लोग मुझे बेचारी यार, डोंट वरी, ये वो 2-4 और ज्ञान भी दे देंगे, सह लेना था, लड़कियों का होता ही है। Now that I'm standing there and saying that this is not on and I'm going to do something about it, people say, oh my God, that was quite brave, courageous. So this is something you have to do wherever you are. सेकेंडली, ऑफकोर्स, द वे आई कैन, जैसे मैं अपने कलीग के साथ स्टैंड ले सकती हूँ, वैसा शायद मैं अपने घर में ना लूं, बिकॉज थोड़े सा तो डिफरेंस है पर्सनल रिलेशनशिप में, बट स्टिल आपको जब कोई इश्यू है ना, ये मैं सबको बोलती हूँ, इमीडिएटली जाके मत बोलने लगी ये हो गया, चांसेस आर यू मेसिंग इट अप, आप उसको और वर्स कर रहे हैं। सेकेंडली, जब दूसरा बंदा, चाहे वो कोई भी हो, आपके हस्बैंड हो, वाइफ हो, बच्चे हो, कोई भी हो, बहुत गुस्से में है, बहुत एजिटेटेड है, तब भी यू हैव टू कीप काम, बिकॉज द अदर पर्सन इज नॉट इन द माइंडसेट, वो आपकी बात नहीं सुनने वाले हैं। सबके साथ होता है, ठीक है। वेट फॉर द राइट टाइम एंड देन try doing this. A lot of people can't do it, but try doing it. जो आपका मेन इश्यू है ना, वो लिखिए, क्या इश्यू है, ठीक है। उसके साथ 10 जो बहुत चीजें पहले हुई हैं, बाद में हुई हैं, वो सब मत ऐड करिए। डोंट जनरलाइज इट, अरे तुम तो हमेशा ही ऐसे करती हो, या तुम तो हमेशा ही ऐसे करती हो, डोंट डू दैट। Now this is being very savvy. The moment आप किसी और को offensive हो जाते हैं, the moment, I don't know the Hindi word for offensive, जब किसी को लगता है कि आप उस पर अटैक कर रहे हैं ना, वो बंदा डिफेंसिव हो जाएगा, and that person is now, the whole energy is going to counter to prove you wrong कि आपकी गलती है। बट हम ये नेगोशिएशन स्किल्स है, एक्चुअली ये मैं बिजनेस लीडर्स को नेगोशिएशन में सिखाती हूँ। गेट पीपल ऑन द टेबल एंड इट इज ऑलवेज विन विन। आपको अपनी बात भी मनवानी है ना, आपको उनको तब भी लाना पड़ेगा इन टेबल, चाहे आप बिजनेस नेगोशिएशन करें या घर में। टेल देम दैट हे, दीज आर माय कंसर्न्स एंड आई कांट डू इट विदाउट यू, आई नीड योर हेल्प। एंड ये बातें मुझे बहुत पिंच करती है। दीज आर द थिंग्स आई थिंक शुड नॉट हैपन, और अगर मेरा भी कुछ है, टेल मी, आई एम नॉट परफेक्ट, आई चेंज, but these are the things, and these are the things which are not acceptable totally. Difficult होगा थोड़ा सा, people भी और shocked हो सकते हैं, अरे अभी कैसे बोल रहे हैं। धीरे धीरे, it's a slow process. Change is a slow process. Whether you're negotiating, कभी एक बार में negotiation खत्म नहीं होता है, it takes time. But once you start and you do it with these things which I have shared, chances are कि आप पहुंचेंगे जहां आप पहुंचना चाहते हैं। I hope that helps.
Yes, it does. And जो भी लोग हमें सुन रहे हैं या बाद में इस वीडियो को देखेंगे, आप शायद समझ गए होंगे कि ये जो हमारे साथ है आज रुचि, जो वो बोल रही है वो बुकिश नॉलेज नहीं शेयर कर रही है आपके साथ, वो आउट ऑफ एक्सपीरियंस बात कर रही है। क्योंकि अगर उनमें करेज और कम्युनिकेशन की कैपेबिलिटी नहीं होती या उन्होंने उस करेज को हमेशा नहीं बांध के रखा होता, एंड ऑफ कोर्स लेट मी टेल यू कि वो एक फौजी की बेटी भी है, तो करेज तो बाय डिफॉल्ट उनके ब्लड में है, बट यू परहैप्स यू गॉट सबड्यूड फॉर सम टाइम। आपने शायद रिलेशनशिप को, इमोशंस को, सोसाइटी को और कई ऐसे एक्सटर्नल पैरामीटर्स को शायद इम्पोर्टेंस दी कि आप खुद को भूलने लगी थी। बट आई थिंक द मोमेंट ऑफ अवेकनिंग वाज व्हेन हर आइडेंटिटी, हर लाइफ वाज क्वेश्चन। शायद आपको लगा होगा कि हमने ये कॉन्वर्सेशन की, हम बात कर रहे थे करेज की और कम्युनिकेशन की, फिर हमने कम्युनिकेशन की टेक्निकलिटीज को समझा, करेज के बारे में समझा, और आपको शायद लगा होगा कि यहाँ पे रुचि आके अपनी पूरी एक पूरी स्टोरी शेयर करेंगे। हम वो स्टोरी जरूर सुनेंगे उनसे इन डिटेल, बट आज का जो हमारा एंडेवर था वो ये था कि हर एक इंसान में हिम्मत होती है जो आपके अंदर है। आपको उस हिम्मत को ढूंढना है, आपको सही शब्द ढूंढने हैं जिससे आप अपने प्रॉब्लम को, अपने इश्यूज को कम्युनिकेट कीजिए, एक्सप्रेस कीजिए। एज रुचि सेड कि कम्युनिकेशन सिर्फ बात करना नहीं होता है, कम्युनिकेशन ये होता है कि आप उसको किस तरीके से बताते हैं, आप कैसे उसको एक्सप्लेन करते हैं, कैसे सामने वाला उसको समझने की कोशिश कर रहा है। कई बार कम्युनिकेशन की सबसे बड़ी प्रॉब्लम ही यही होती है कि आप कुछ कह रहे हैं, सामने वाला उसे कुछ और परसीव कर रहा है। बट हाउ कॉन्फिडेंट आर यू अबाउट व्हाट यू आर सेइंग? अगर आप अपने लिए खड़े होते हैं कि आई विल नॉट टॉलरेट दिस, और फिर आप उसकी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी लेते हैं कि अब जो मुझे करना है वो मुझे सही तरीके से करना है, वो है करेज, वो है सही कम्युनिकेशन जो आप कन्वे कर सकते हैं। और करेज एंड कम्युनिकेशन इज नॉट अ वेपन, if I may call it that, just for women or men or children. It is for everyone. Whoever is a victim and is being bashed because of that needs that courage to communicate. And अगर हमें सबको याद हो, pretty much a year back when the whole pandemic started, there were a lot of suicide cases that we heard about. And of course, it reached a different level when we heard about SSR. But look around you, the people who have that moment of weakness are the ones who did not communicate, or we did not communicate with them. We did not check on them because perhaps we didn't have the courage to bell the cat. And that is the power of courage in communication. Ruchi, thank you so much. That was indeed a wonderful conversation. I am sure there is a lot to know about you, but we are going to keep that for some other time to know more about Ruchi as a person, Ruchi as the person who changed and is now working towards creating that change. She's been given a title by our batch. She's the Iron Lady. That she's very strong, she's very courageous, and she communicates that and exhibits that with a smile on her face. So thank you so much, Ruchi. On behalf of all of us, Ela and myself, we thank you for being at the Motherhood Club. If anybody has any questions today, tomorrow, or whenever, I'm sure Ruchi would be very happy to answer. You could visit Ruchi's website also, and we have shared that in her profile. If you need any help, if you are suffering from something, or if you are a victim of domestic violence, please do reach out to her, and I'm sure she will guide you, She will help you inculcate the courage to be able to communicate that you wish to. Don't suffer alone.
Yes.
Let's build that camaraderie amongst each other. Let women, mothers bond with each other to actually, eradicate all these negative emotions and tortures and change the mindset of people. And the mindset is not just of the men, but also of women equally. So with this, we come to this great conversation with Ruchi, and we will be back again with yet another very powerful conversation as soon as tomorrow. So stay tuned, be here at 4 o'clock, and we will be talking to a very, very strong mother who I'm going to let her talk, and let's hear what she has to say to us tomorrow. So till then, stay safe and take care, and be at home. And keep watching us and keep showering our love and affection at the Motherhood Club. So take care.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. It was a lovely conversation. And yes, people can connect with me through, I'm in a whole lot of places. ruchisingtalks.com, and I do have a free mini course on storytelling. So if anyone wants it, please just visit my website and take it. Yeah.
Super,
and can I just end with one line? My favorite quotation.
Yes, please.
खुद ही को कर बुलंद इतना कि हर तकदीर से पहले खुदा बंदे से खुद पूछे बता तेरी रजा क्या है. Thank you.
Super. And Ruchi, there are very few people for whom I would do this, and I think you are one of them. And while the people at the UN summit give you a standing ovation, I am alone here in my room. All I can do is to stand up and give you a standing ovation.
Oh my God. Thank you so much, Harika. Thank you. You don't have to do it. I'm always
I know I don't have to do it, but, having read about you, having heard you, having seen you go through and come out of it, hats off to you, girl.
Thanks, yeah. Thank you for being such a nice friend. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
All right, everyone. So see you soon as tomorrow. This is Ekta Sehgal Malhotra, founder of Motherhood Club, along with Ira Vivedi, President and Chief Advisor, Motherhood Club. Thank each one of you to have joined us, to hear what Ruchi had to share, and always being here to support us in our initiative to build the camaraderie among mothers and women. See you soon. Take care.